NMIF correspondent Laura Paskus has spent most of her professional life reporting on our state's environment. It's been at times frustrating and at other points inspiring. In her new book, At the Precipice, she reflects on that journey and lays out the key parts of New Mexico's fragile place in a warming natural world. NMIF producer Matt Grubb sat down to speak with her about the stories she's told and the ones she's still telling.
Laura Paskus, it's good to see you without a mask on, 10 feet away.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, what strikes me about your book is that, one, we've known about this for so long, and two, that you do an excellent job of getting into some of the human stuff. So let's first start with some of the work that you've done over the course of a couple decades that you've been covering this. You've found people who've been warning about this, who've been talking about it at varying degrees of volume for years. What has changed?
I think the big thing that has changed is more and more people understand that the climate is changing and that's going to have negative impacts on communities and landscapes and resources here in New Mexico. And even though there is still a partisan divide on climate change and the understanding that it's human caused, in New Mexico, the numbers really do show that the majority of New Mexicans understand that climate change is happening, understand it will have negative impacts, and understand that it's human caused. So that's definitely changed throughout the course of my reporting career.
Okay. The sort of the subtitle is New Mexico's Changing Climate, but you do a good job of sort of bringing it into a global focus too. One of the things that I noticed and that you emphasize is that we're seeing climate change now. It's happening in a lot of the stuff that, for example, we see on our land every month, but snowpack, fire season, it's in our face, it sounds like.
It really is. Here in New Mexico, I feel like New Mexicans, and maybe people in other states feel this way about their state, but in New Mexico, I feel like we really have a close connection with our landscapes. We pay attention to our seasons. New Mexicans understand what's happening around them. And so whether it's a longer fire season or big fires with pretty troubling floods afterwards, or the dry Rio Grande, we see these impacts all over the place, but they've been happening all over the world for a while now. In the book, I touch a little bit on what was happening even 10 years ago in the Pacific, where you have islands that are being inundated by oceans and people asking for help and asking why Americans aren't paying attention to climate change and aren't taking action on climate change. So we see the impacts all across the globe.
We see them kind of slowly, or at least we were, right? It was sort of this slow motion crash that is now manifesting itself to the point where it sounds like we used to say, wow, it's been like a hot stretch, or we had a great winter or something like that. And now we kind of know what we can pin to climate change, at least more, it sounds like.
Yeah, and this year is a really interesting year for New Mexico, I think, for us to be paying attention to, because, the Rio Grande dries pretty regularly, as we've seen diminished snowpack, and as we choose to use the river's water for other uses. But this year is really interesting because the river started to dry at the end of May, early June. And right now there's about 40 miles dry of the middle Rio Grande. But this year's snowpack wasn't super bad. It was close to normal from the fall through February. And yet we still saw a reduced snowpack and an early snowmelt. So for places like the arid Southwest, warming means drying. And so even if we have close to normal precipitation, this warming that we're seeing is having such big impacts on our water resources, on our rivers, and on our ability to rely on surface water.
You spend a fair amount of time talking about this concept that Jonathan Overpeck has of a hot drought, that it's a drought more reliant on temperature than it is on precipitation. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Where even when we have a good snowpack, that melts out early and fast, or we have close to normal precipitation, but that comes in rain instead of snow. So there's all kinds of issues involved with that hot drought, including that the warmer it is, the more plants need water, the faster your soils dry out, the harder it is to recover when there is precipitation. So this hot drought is a really important concept for New Mexicans to understand.
You talk about a guy named Greg Garfin, who is a scientist. One of the things you quote him as saying is, "The big message for me is the interconnectedness between all these systems. If we try to look at those in isolation, we're setting ourselves up for more problems." So the idea that we're getting rain instead of snow has all these sort of far-flung impacts, and it's all connected.
It is, and as the climate has changed, we're still relying on a water infrastructure that was entirely set up for a snow melt system. Our big reservoirs, when water is delivered, all of these systems are becoming outdated. And so that's a big, we kind of need to catch up politically, socially, and in terms of our technical and engineering efforts. We need to start trying to catch up with the climate.
We're much better at that, but you're talking about added up together probably multi-billion-dollar systems. I mean, the cost to build a dam or even a water control system is almost mind-boggling now.
Yeah, so wouldn't it have been great if we started planning for this 20 years ago, when we had a really good idea of what was happening, or even back in the 1960s when there was some pretty solid consensus building around the fact that the climate was changing. Instead, we have just continued to kick decisions down the road, and they get more expensive and harder to implement. And certainly right now we have so many different crises to focus on that I worry that the climate crisis, which is becoming more and more pronounced, will just kind of get pushed aside once again.
As you read through the book, as I read through the book, like I said, the human part of it comes up so often. And when you talk about the systems not working, it's not just climatic, it's human. And I'm wondering what you think that does to our sense of place and of history, these traditions that we have in the place that we live.
Yeah, one of the things, like I mentioned before, I really feel like as New Mexicans, we're very closely connected to our places. And as those places change, whether it's conifer forests in the Jemez that are, either burning off or dying off, or our dry riverbeds, we start seeing things like a dry riverbed as normal, and stop thinking that that's something that is and should be alarming, and that we should really be, as a society, thinking about how we ensure that doesn't happen. But I think one of the dangers in writing about climate change, and I definitely have felt this at different times in my reporting career, it's really easy to become discouraged, and it's really easy to think, the forests are dying and I feel sad, and why should I care about this landscape anymore? And I think that as all these changes are happening, I don't think we should accept, for example, a dry riverbed as something that's normal and something that we should just accept. But I do think we need to be building new relationships with the landscapes as they change, so that we're not just grief-stricken, or so we don't just feel despair and lean toward inaction, but kind of embracing change as something that's inevitable. And gosh, it would have been great if we had limited our greenhouse gas emissions decades ago, but this change is happening, and we have to adapt to it.
You have a couple of really good chapters in the middle of this book about the loss of your father and about how the faith community is responding to it. How did you start to make sense of grief and kind of the parallel pathways or channels of grief with the loss of your father?
I think it's really easy to be sad sometimes, and it's really easy to be angry. And especially when you're thinking about environmental issues, it's really easy to feel angry about things that you see happening that you think are unjust or unfair. And that anger can propel you forward toward action, but after a while it's exhausting, and after a while it eats you up and, kind of makes you act in other ways of your life that maybe aren't great or healthy. And so I think one of the really important lessons that I learned is that if you love something, you will take care of it and you will nurture it and you will fight for it. And if you can kind of key into that's a way to keep moving forward on these issues that are super overwhelming.
Sure. We, as a country right now, are dealing with sort of another one of these long issues of race and racial injustice. The faith community is tied into, I think, both of these movements. How did you see churches and centers of faith responding to this? You talk about it a little bit as sort of almost a moral issue, much like racial justice would be.
Yeah, I was able to talk with some really great faith leaders in New Mexico when reporting on climate change, and especially back a few years ago when Pope Francis issued his encyclical calling for action on climate change. And it was around also a really important international meeting. The timing sort of was corresponded, and there were so many people, not just Catholics, but people across faith coming together to say, we're caretakers of the earth, we're caretakers of one another, and we should be taking care of this issue of climate change, and also recognizing that climate change impacts vulnerable communities first and most deeply. And so it is a social justice issue, it's a moral issue, and it's an issue that so many different communities of faith have said we all want to be working on this together.
Have they reached out to Native communities whom you describe in the book as, well, I don't know if you use these words, but I get the picture of them being sort of on the edge. They're in the places where the sea level is rising, or out in the Navajo Nation where they don't have running water and it's only getting more dry. Is there a connection between those communities?
Yeah, and I think in covering sort of impacts of oil and gas drilling in northwestern New Mexico, there was a woman I had interviewed who talked about how, the U.S. government wanted all these good lands and put Native communities out on these sort of inferior lands in many instances, like with the Navajo Nation, kind of pushed people out there. And then once, oh my gosh, there's oil, there's uranium, there's natural gas, there's coal, we want to extract all of that. And so you have people in these communities who are dealing with the daily public health and environmental impacts of an extractive industry. And these are also among the areas that are hardest hit by climate change because of this hot drought, because of this move of this arid land to being even warmer and drier. So you have many Native communities bearing a disproportionate impact of the impacts of climate change.
Well, Laura, this is a great book, and there's a ton more to talk about. I've got all my little pink notes in here, but I look forward to many more, and really thanks for doing this work and for staring at this stuff that's so hard for a lot of us to look at. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.